Do you want to go to space? You want to go to space, puppy? I'll take you to space.
Hey guys, my name's DocJade. Do you wish Factorio took as much effort as a full-time job? Well, do I have the mod for you. You might already be familiar with space exploration, but if not, here's a quick rundown. Space exploration is an overhaul mod that adds a ton of new items, interplanetary travel, and increases overall complexity quite a bit. In addition to space exploration, I've also added Factorio 2, which is yet another overhaul mod that space exploration is compatible with. There's also a few other mods I'm using that aren't worth talking about in detail, so here's a list. After setting the correct map generator and shuffling the seed a bit, let's get started. At first everything looked pretty normal, until I saw this massive beam of fire, which is apparently called a coronal mass ejection, which I can confirm does hurt you. I'll ignore it and hope it goes away, and in the meantime I'll scrounge through the crash site for supplies. We start with a damaged power source, assembler, and lab, and instead of the usual science packs, we have to make tech cards for research. Might as well start at the top of the list, so first up is automation cores, which takes 10 basic tech cards. Basic tech cards are made out of copper wire and wood, so it's time to chop some trees. A quick peek at my inventory reveals that I also started with a burner lab and burner assembler. Interesting. This seed has a pretty awesome patch of ores over here, so I'll head over and start mining some ore. Except to make a second burner mining drill, I apparently need stone bricks. Okay, sure, I guess that makes sense. Also, apparently you don't regenerate health anymore, so I'll have to use these med packs. Thankfully, it looks like I can make more out of biomatter or fish. If you don't know what biomatter is, don't worry, you'll see it later. After using 10 stone to make 5 bricks, I can make that burner miner I wanted. Apparently I also have a sleeping friend. No idea what it is. I used it, and it spawned a biter, which fortunately appears to be friendly. I think I'll call him Bob. Back on track, more stone and some iron, except I need 20 iron to make 15 plates, which kind of stinks. The rocket debris are also made of iron plates, so I'll do a bit of cleanup. Now for some copper, then we can make our first batch of tech cards. Only took 9 minutes. I'll chuck them in the lab, and then make some gears in the ship assembler. Every time I see Bob, he scares me a little bit. Speaking of scary, there's so many researches. A bit of manual labor later. There's automation cores, now for some military. In Factorio 2, you have to set all the recipes in furnaces, and I always forget to do it. While we wait for our stocks to pile, I'll go fishing and make some first aid kits. Looking in my inventory again, I also have a shelter, which sets my respawn point and can hold a ton of stuff. I forgot to actually make the tech cards for research. Whoops. But that one lab is pretty slow, so we'll also use the burner lab. Military, now for some mining speed. Then I'll make a submachine gun and some ammo. But I forget there's multiple types of ammo in Factorio, so oops. While I was hand-feeding the assembler to make more tech cards, our planet got hit by a meteor, which seems to happen pretty often. Also, these icons on the map are core seams. We'll have to check those out later. More miners later. Iron pickaxe. Now for automation, which seems to unlock quite a bit, including electricity. You can place raw stone as a pathway, which is neat, so I'll ghost some paths, just like girls ghost me on Tinder. Once I finished filling that in, we've got plenty of tech cards, but not enough labs, so I'll make a few more. After looking at an animation issue, automation tech cards finished in the background, and I queued electricity. Red cards are quite a bit more complicated. They need automation cores, which take copper plates, iron gears, and iron sticks, but I don't want to make them all by hand. Thankfully, we can use these burner assemblers to automate them, albeit slowly. The more advanced cards also need these blank tech cards, which take iron plates and copper wire. There's our first red tech card, 41 minutes. I'll steal the burner labs, then automate basic tech cards right next door. I usually don't pave my bases, but alien biomes makes you walk so slow. That's electricity. Next up is logistics, which now includes loaders. Nice. It's pretty annoying running around grabbing trees for power poles, but thankfully you can make them out of iron. Super nice. Small electric motor, huh? I wonder how many we'll need. Logistics. Both electric mining and assemblers are good choices, but I'll do electric mining first. Our pollution cloud is getting pretty big. We should definitely keep an eye on that. According to Informatron here, the next coronal mass ejection isn't for another 2 days. Hopefully that should be enough time to figure out some kind of defense system. Electric inserters need those small electric motors I was talking about earlier, so I'll have to set those up, otherwise I'll be handcrafting them for the next 6 to 9 months. We don't have a source of power just yet, so I'll use one of these wind turbines to make a tiny amount of power. There's another meteor, but it is quite close this time, so let's go check it out. Looks like it's just a big rock with a bunch of random resources in it. Neat. Back on base, we're going to need a better source of power quite soon, so in preparation, we will make a fuel processor. Fuel processors take in-burnable items and turn them into a slightly more efficient fuel. It's pretty much free energy. I also really like the animation. There's electric miners. They're slightly expensive to make, but not too bad. But before we make those, we can take a quick look at the production tab, which tells us that there's biter nests absorbing pollution now, and we should definitely start working on defenses. I'd like to have a radar to reveal more of the map, but they're still behind green tech cards. But at least sentinels are nearby. They're kind of like a mini radar. Unfortunately for us, though, we don't have enough time to prepare for a biter attack because they're already here. They very quickly eviscerate me, then start wreaking havoc on the rest of the base. After no help from Bob, I eventually got everything under control, but we lost most of our assemblers to the battle. Time for some turrets. We should hopefully have enough tech cards laying around. After I set some production up, we immediately got hit by another large biter swarm, this time targeting our mining setup. For now, I'll just tear everything down till we can get the biters under control. Slowly but surely, we're making turrets and ammo. I'd also like to wrap us up in a wall, so those are next, except biters ate all of the leftover tech cards, so I had to make some more by hand. Once walls finished, I had enough turrets stockpiled to make a makeshift defense, so I started setting up some electric miners, but our power output is hilariously low. Another small biter wave came, but this time Bob was feeling a bit vengeful, which unfortunately led to him being dismembered quite quickly, but I won't let him die in vain. After taking out the nest, I can pick up the creep on the ground, which turns into biomass. A quick search for the other nest later, I took them out as well. Then I went to check out that core seam that was marked on the map. Apparently you can put a core mining drill on top of it to get core fragments. We'll definitely have to check that out. It's pretty far down the research tree, but we're gonna have to research all of this anyways, so might as well just head straight for it. First up is the crusher. Our mining setup is slow, but what if we made it stupid too? Mining a mixed ore patch is kind of a pain, so we could just mix it all together. Then on the other end, we can split all the resources back out onto their own belts. After that, we can stick a fuel processor right alongside the cold belt, and next to that, we can place a burner turbine generator, which burns fuel to make electricity, but it's hilariously inefficient. After kickstarting the fuel processor, we're mining. I was wondering where green circuits were, but they're not too far away, just behind automation. But we still need a lot of tech cards, so time to set those up again using direct insertion. It's not fast, but it works. Since you have to set the recipes on furnaces, mixed ore smelting actually isn't that bad, but as you might expect, it clogs pretty easily. The way I have the belt set up doesn't let iron ore through either. Crusher. Next up is automation. According to the description of the crusher, it crushes things. Unbelievable, I know. Time to start working on that wall, but each wall tile takes 5 bricks, so they're pretty expensive. While I waited on bricks, I set up some belt production, which now takes single-cylinder engines instead of gears, but they're still pretty simple. The sushi belt kept clogging, so I tore everything down and went back to the usual separated mining approach. Then we can build some smelting arrays. I'll keep them small for now. With copper and iron plates done, we can rebuild tech cards yet again, so I don't have to hand feed them anymore. Except for the wood. Then I'll move belts over here, and then set up inserter production automation, which was slightly more complicated than I was anticipating, especially because, electronics, they also needed burner inserters. Next up is glass, because I feel like it. After sneaking the burner inserters in, we've finally got inserters. Another meteorite landed quite close by, so I'll grab that. Man, this is a mess. Green circuits have 2 different recipes. You can either make them with wood or stone tablets. Since I don't have greenhouses to make wood yet, we'll use the stone method. Stone tablets are made out of stone bricks, so after some quick bricks, we can get sidetracked and set up walls because I totally didn't forget to do that earlier. We're definitely going to need some more iron down the line, so might as well set it up right now. Another thing on my wish list is personal roboports, which are pretty far away, so yeah, whatever. I should also enclose this core seed. I'm not sure if biters can walk through shallow water or not, so just to be on the safe side, I'll rebuild the walls to make sure none of them are near it. There's stone processing. Now we can research electric labs. Building walls takes forever. Time to put gears on the bus, but I'll also put these iron beams on the bus next to them. No idea when I'll need them, but having them on the bus will be nice. Power generation isn't quite keeping up anymore, so I built a second turbine. Okay, back on task finally. Green circuits. I'll just assume the copper wire ratio is the same. There we go, green circuits on the bus. I feel like we'll need a tad more than that though, so I'll double it. Electric labs, now for logistic tech cards. Finally finished the eastern wall, and the south wall too. Logistic tech cards take gears, green circuits, and blank tech cards. Should be pretty easy since we already have all of that on the bus. Blank tech cards are first, and I'll put them on the bus as well. There's the cards, now for steel processing, which is made out of iron plates and coke. But coke needs wood to be made, so we'll have to unlock the greenhouse first. Another meteorite. And that's basic fluid handling. Looking at the crafting recipe for wood, you can either make it out of just water, or make twice as much, twice as fast using some sand. Seems like a no-brainer to me, so time for a crusher. We probably won't need too much sand, so we can just steal the stone from brick production. Oh, yeah, green cards. Let's finish those. After perfectly placing some assemblers, we just need to pull items off of the bus. Super simple. But I really don't want to run the cards all the way back there, so time to tear down red card production yet again to move it forwards. First green card, 3 hours. Since we already have sand, I'll start making glass now, since I know we'll probably need it later. Actually, later is now. We need glass for the electric labs. Once I've thrown those down, now for red cards. Putting them directly below green cards is a little weird, but luckily I have a hypothetical black belt in spaghetti karate. So getting all the ingredients down there wasn't too bad. The only problem is, now we're in a pretty major copper shortage. So, time to pillage this patch down south. Apparently, I forgot underground belts were a thing. I would usually use trains for this kind of thing, but they're a bit further down the tech tree, so maybe another time. I'll splice the copper line in and bring power back. We should also have some armor just in case. I'll cue it. Some glitchy audio, basic tech cards, and more power later. That's the greenhouse. Let's make some. The craft times on wood are pretty long, so it's a good idea to build more than one greenhouse. I'll place an offshore pump, then marvel at how long the underground pipes are. So nice. But I forgot you have to power the pump, so after that, we've got wood production. But man, these greenhouses are extremely power hungry. I hovered over the module slots on accident, and there's a lot of tiers of modules. Hopefully they aren't needed in crafting recipes. There's light armor. Now let's finally move into the steam age with steam engines. It's also time to properly automate basic tech cards. I'm putting wood and glass on the same belt because you can't stop me. A quick wire assembler, research, and 2 power poles later, that's basic tech cards, hopefully for the final time. Let's set up steam power. I'll steal the water from wood production, fuel from brick production, and put it all together up here. Our power problems are instantly fixed, and on top of that, this should be more fuel efficient and less polluting than the burner generators. Speaking of pollution, in my Crastorio 2 run, I put air purifiers everywhere to almost completely eliminate our pollution output. If biters end up becoming too powerful, we can certainly try that again. Back to core mining. Next is steel, which I swore I already researched. I must have forgotten. Let's make some, shall we? Problem is, now we need coal all the way down here. Luckily, the right side of the blank tech card belt has room, so I'll stuff it on there, then we can start setting up some steel production. First up is coke. But to make sure it doesn't burn all of the wood as fuel, we can load in the coal first, then once all of the buffers fill, we can add the wood. Once that's done, steel is super easy. Since you can burn the coke as fuel, you only need to add iron plates. Next up, the grappling gun. I have no idea what it does, but it looks cool. Then some more inventory space. I'll make some hooks for the grapple, then take it for a spin. Oh yeah, this is great. I don't even think I'll need exoskeletons later. Next up for the core miner is multi-cylinder engines. I have a feeling those are going to need single-cylinder engines, so we should probably automate those as well. Thankfully, they're super simple, just plates and gears. They're also surprisingly fast to craft. Additionally, it might be a good idea to throw electric motors on the other side of the belt, just in case. Electric motors are made the exact same way, but with some extra copper wire. Luckily, we don't need the iron beams here, so we can throw copper wire on the other side of this gear belt. Next up is fluid chemistry. I'm not excited. I hate fluids. Anywho, some copper wire and 4 assemblers later, that's electric motors. The bus is starting to get pretty wide, which is good because I love spaghetti. Research is taking 5/4 of forever, but we have extra science, so time for some more labs. There's fluid chemistry, now for fluid handling, which is pretty quick. Then oil processing. The complexity of ingredients for making buildings is increasing very quickly. Hopefully I can get logistics robots before it gets too bad. While that researches, I started exploring to hopefully scout out any nearby biters. Getting pretty close to core mining, only 4 researches to go. Next up is automation 2. I did find some biters, but thankfully they're all pretty far away from the base, and the pollution cloud hasn't reached them quite yet, so I'll deal with them later. I also found an oil field just a tad east of the base, which is nice. Even though they aren't a threat yet, I think I'll preemptively take out all of the biters near the pollution cloud. I'm not a fan of surprises, but we'll need some ammo for that, so I'll whip that together. Automation 2, now for concrete. Right before I plugged the resources into ammo production, I realized we're running completely dry on iron plates, which is due to a lack of fuel, which is due to a lack of fuel processing. So I'll add a second fuel processor right above copper production. It'll take a while for iron production to recover, so I'll just hand feed it. A couple things are limited by inserter speed, so I'll bump fast inserters to the front of the queue. Good stuff. Next up, let's automate turrets as well, which are super easy. Then we can take out some biters. The grappling hook is a pretty great offensive tool, since you can very quickly move to or from biter bases. But I did end up overextending a bit, so I'll have to come back later. Iron output is still abysmal, so I'll squeeze in some more smelting up yonder. After overextending yet again, I managed to finally take on the nest. Still not enough iron, so I'll expand smelting capacity again and build some more miners. Concrete. Now for the pulverizer, which is the last research before the core miner. Now we're starting to run low on coal, so I'll have to grab some from this patch up here. Clicking and dragging with belts works with the grappling hook. Super convenient. There's the coal. Now we can build some more fuel processors to make sure we never run out of fuel for steam power. Speaking of which, we had a blackout, so we should probably expand a bit more to keep up with the new miners. All of our iron from the first smelter is getting eaten by gear production, but we're still not quite keeping up, so I'll make some more. That's the pulverizer. Now for the core miner. We're going to need concrete to craft it, so let's set it up. Instead of the usual bricks and iron ore, we need bricks, sticks, and sand. I actually like this recipe a bit more than the vanilla one, since I don't have to pull a random belt of iron ore through the base. And holy crap, that is a lot of fluids. I am not excited to deal with all of those. Now we're just being held back by green card production. There's the core miner, and after crafting all of the prerequisites, let's make one. The description here says the core miner can draw up to 25 megawatts, but right now our base is only making around 15. Time for more steam power. I'll cram it over here by fuel production. Now we should have plenty of headroom to run the core miner. Speaking of which, let's go place it. Almost 6 hours in, we've got core mining. It's quite fast. Looking at the core fragment recipes, it looks like we can turn the fragments into an assortment of ores and fluids, including a new fluid called pyroflux that I've never heard of before. But we'll need a pulverizer for that. So after popping one down and plugging in the ore, now we just need to deal with all of the fluids. For now, I'll throw all of them into a tank, and now we've got an assortment of ore. I have no idea what this Pyroflex stuff is used for, but I'll hold on to it just in case it's important. The Crastorio loaders have filters on them, which is super useful for us since we can pull the ores out of the pulverizer one belt at a time. After doing exactly that, now we just need to plug in the ores. Except that's super far away, so I'll move the pulverizer to a more convenient location. Then I'll plug it in. Things like stone backing up could end up being an issue, but we'll burn that bridge when we cross it. This big empty gap looks like the perfect spot to fit some oil in. So we'll do that right after I take a brief tangent to queue research for radars. Basic oil processing works almost the same, but now we need to give it water. No biggie, we'll need it for advanced oil later anyways. We can also use the water and oil that come out of the pulverizers in the refineries, but we'll need to carefully add pumps and such to make sure nothing gets backed up. But I don't have circuit network unlocked yet, so I'll kick the radars out of the queue and start on that next. Sentinels! These little dudes are pretty awesome. They reveal a small area around them, but they're only 1 by 1, so you can fit them nearly anywhere. Petroleum only took just over 6 hours. And with circuit networks, we can put a condition on this pump to only add water from the lakes if this tank drops below 200 water. Now we can copy and paste the refinery a few times to future-proof it. The next tech card requires plastics and sulfur, which finally reminds me I need to cover the oil field in pump jacks. I'll queue sulfur, then start enclosing the oil field. Then plastic, and more enclosement. Blue cards require red circuits, which require silicon processing, so that's next. After finally finishing the wall, I'll place all of the pump jacks. Now for red circuits. I'll run a pipe back to the base, plug it in, and that's oil. The last thing I want to do today is scout out and clear out down south. Since pollution seems to travel a lot faster over water, it's important to make sure there aren't any biters next to nearby lakes. After cleaning all that up, that's all I've got planned for today. So as usual, it's time to thank my supporters on Ko-fi. Your contributions make longer challenge runs like this possible. And that's all for today. My name's DocJade. Bye-bye.